Here's a routine for you to increase flexibility, mobility around the hip joint, and improve strength. Chris Mills with surfstrengthcoach.com. So the hip joint, right? It's one of these really big movement centers that we should have a lot of access of range of motion, because in surfing, so much of it is spiral and compression and extension. So once this major movement center stops moving and a stiff spine, your surfing really takes a hit. So I'm going to give you some drills to reinforce range of motion and then build strength. In a previous video, I gave you some basic fundamental stretches because so much of social media is this really advanced stuff from fitness professionals that doesn't necessarily downstream to the average dude that's working at a desk and surfing on the weekends. You need some stuff that is applicable. So check out those basic stretches because that's what you need to know. But then we need to start layering on strength and control. So much of surfing, again, we're looking at compression and extension and rotation. And it's moving a pelvis on fixed and stable femurs thigh bone, right? And it's moving in and out of these positions. And as soon as these hip joints lock up, especially with, do that with really stiff hip joints. It ain't gonna happen. So let's improve how you move. If you want something that is really comprehensive in terms of improving your fitness so it carries over to your time in the water, check out the Surf Athlete app. You're gonna absolutely froth on it. So I've shown you previously this 90-90 stretch, right? We need to know how to be good in this position so then you can start getting into all these fancy hip shifts and everything. But first, do you have external rotation? Do you have internal rotation? So now let's start strengthening that. This can be a hard drill for people at times. Set up in this shin box position. So if we go 90-90, we just bring that back leg up a bit. Cool? What we're gonna do is start loading this front hip. So I need to know how to keep a stable spine position. Go back to that original hip stretching video if need be. And it's just about maintaining this good neutral spine. So what I'm gonna do is start to bring my torso over this front leg. So I'm loading this glute, this backside left glute. I'm gonna get as far as I can. And then I'm going to start pushing my knee into the ground. Ultimately, what I'm going to do is post up. And then I post down, but I need to know how to control this spine, right? So I need to know, can I get into a 90-90 position, maintain good neutral spine? Yes, I can be there. Okay, let's shorten up this shin box position a little. Lean over, maintaining a neutral spine, pressing into the ground as hard as possible, and then driving up. And I sit back, lean over that front leg, start driving that knee into the ground. You're gonna feel a glute contraction. Drive up. This can be really hard for somebody that has really tight hips because they can't even access this position. But if you can access this position, you need to start working on this hip range of motion because it's loading that glute into extension as well as external rotation. Let's say you can't get there, use your hands a little. Lean forward as far as you can. Start driving this knee down into the ground. That's going to start, you're going to feel your hip muscle contract. Use your hand only as much as you need to push and then drive that knee into the ground. So in this position, I feel a really strong glute contraction. My outside leg isn't pushing much. It's this front leg. Load that hip tissue. Drive, control down if you need to. Use the hands only enough and then really control down. But again, you need to know how to keep that spine in a good position. Previous video, I showed you some adductor stretches. So now let's load it and create some strength. So much of surfing, like you see those old school like images of Slater where it's this full like wraparound turn, all this length through this adductor. So set up nice and wide, lateral lunge. You're going to shift down, load this leg, lengthening this leg, and yeah, what am I doing with this handkerchief in my hand? We'll get there in a minute. Drive up. First, just feel this pattern. And what's important is that You sit the hip back, then drive up. It's not just knee. And again, all these details, sequences, more follow along. Check out that Surf Athlete app. So, progress this. Cool, once you get comfortable with loading, put a towel underneath the foot, get nice and stable, stay centered over this leg, drive up. This leg's just along for the ride, getting some length. I can drive that foot into the floor as I drive this down. This is a really good drill that you can obviously see my handkerchief sliding out. I usually use a piece of cardboard. It's easier if this floor is not all like wooden planked. But you get the idea. You can start hitting different angles as well. Solid drill. Again, referencing previous video, basic hip flexor stretches, right? I've been at the desk all day. Let's open up a hip. Now let's load that tissue. So first off, if you got funky knees, be careful with this one. You need to know, again, how to maintain this posterior tilt. We're gonna go at this slowly. First, initial movement, can you sit under your feet and then push up? This requires a knee joint that does its job pretty well. If you've had major meniscal issues, ACL stuff, reconstructions, get cleared by your tending physician, whatever, that you got the range of motion. So now working on these, to come up, I want you to push your feet into the floor as if you're trying to drive your shins down, and you should feel a quadricep contraction. Now, what we really want to progress to, natural leg extensions. Get that posterior tilt. We drop back. Maybe this is as far as you go. To come back up, I push my feet into the floor. I start coming back further, holding. These are hard. We work on some isometrics here. Maybe I hold for a couple seconds, load that tissue, but you need to know how to maintain that posterior tilt. We don't get here and just, we're trying to create some length and strength. This can create some really durable knees as well. So I'd hit about 2-second holds, 8 to 10 reps. You might have to build up that. And this range of motion could be much shorter. It could just be here, pause, up. A really good drill that kind of starts to just integrate this stuff is lateral lunge to rotation. So again, think of surfing. We've got all these asymmetrical postures. Pelvis is moving around femurs. Femurs are moving underneath the pelvis. We can come into a lateral lunge. I start to shift this femur just a bit, but I don't go straight. Lateral lunge. This deep lunge position, okay? But I'm not hyperextending. I'm keeping some abdominal contraction. I'm getting a good stretch. So I'm still having to shift femurs a bit. So I slightly shift feet. This foot is at about a 45-degree angle, which is beneficial because I have to rotate my pelvis. So I'm getting internal rotation on this leg. So I could drop in. I could progress that even further with more foot pivoting. Stay low, load the hip, rotate. So that's kind of an integration that's building strength, flexibility, but more importantly, mobility, how you can control a joint in space. That's really what we're after in surfing. We want to make sure the joint health is there, that it can access ranges of motion, but then we're able to control that range of motion, layer on some strength and some control. That's really what we need, because as a surfer, it's so much force production, force absorption, and really asymmetrical hip positions. Because I'm a good dude, let's make this applicable for you. Bit of a follow along. I've mentioned it before, if you really want something really comprehensive, training, breath work, paddle, flexibility, mobility, everything that you want as a surfer, check out the Surf Athlete app. Go through basic stretches. I'm not going to do them here. Check out the other video. I want each basic stretch done. So 90-90, each leg, adductor, each leg, hip flexor, each leg. Pause it, do it, refer the other video if you need to. So you've done the basic stretches. Cool. Now let's load that tissue. I'm going to do one round with you. We're going to go through the drills exactly as I've laid them out. You're going to repeat that round twice. Get set up in shin box position. Knees, hips, all good and aligned. I lean over. Use your hands if you need to. Drive off that front knee. You should feel a really good butt contraction. Control down. Drive. I want you dropping down just to where that butt tissue touches. I lean over towards just to the inside of that knee. Drive. If you need to, use the hands. I think that's 4. We'll go 4 more. Control that spine. Nice upright chest. Breathe. If you need to, again, use those hands to control the descent. Use those hands just a bit to drive up. We'll do 1 more. I haven't counted. I'm just too busy jabbering on. Cool. Switch your feet. Get set up in that 90-90. I want chest just towards the bottom of that knee. Drive off that knee. You should feel a good butt cheek contraction on that right hip. 2. Reach your butt back as if you're trying to get your belly button to face forward still, so no rounding of the spine. Just like that basic 90-90 hip stretch, you need to know how to load that hip without rolling that spine all over the place. Let's go 3 more. I haven't counted. 3. Just to where that butt tissue touches. Boom, there it is. Drive. Tight butt contraction. I've got some ab tension. Cool. We're going to adductor lateral lunges. Use a slider if you want to. We're going to do all reps on 1 leg. Start loading into that left. 1. Control down. Load. Drive up. 2. Control. 3. For those that are really mobile, you start rotating that hip and driving up. 4. 5. 1 more. 6. Switch hips. 1. 2. Again, you could be using that slider to where it's under that left foot and you're sliding out. If you've got the range, let that foot rotate out. Again, we're just working on multiple angles of hip control. Now we're going to go into natural leg extensions. Find that posterior tilt. If you're here, that's what you're working on. Drive the feet into the floor. 1. I just want you to feel the knee tissue, right? All the quadricep, rectus femoris, that patellar tendon being loaded. If you're able, we come into natural leg extensions. Pause. 1, 2, up. Pause. 1, 2, up. Let's go 2 or 3 more. Pause. 1, 2. Since this is really hitting a lot of connective tissue, we need to keep that tension or the tissue under tension for a little longer period of time. And just be cautious with these. If you got grumpy knees, these can aggravate it. Cool. Now let's put it into a sequence. We're going to go from lateral lunge into rotation. Lateral lunge. I shift underneath a low ceiling as I let that foot roll to 45. Pivot. Hold. Ab tension. Shift low. Shift. Hold. Abs. Drive. Push off that foot to come back here. Push off this foot to come back here. Nice foot contact. Cool. Let's switch sides. So if you'd want a drive, I rotate and come all the way into Spider-Man. Drive off this outside leg. I let this rotate to 45. Pivot onto that foot. Ab tension. Do not let go. And just hyperextend. Oh, I'm in yoga. I'm flexible. Yoga's all good, but we need to create control, not hypermobility. Stay nice and low. Shift. Wicked circuit. Pause this. Do it again. Get frothy. It's good for your hips, right? I'd say work on this sequence 2-3 times a week. Add in some spine stuff. Add in some strength training, some type of cardio. That's what it's about just keeping your body physically capable of what we're asking it to do in the surf. So, if that's your gig, check out the Surf Athlete app. There's also a free version, multiple programs within it, and the comprehensive 12-week Surf Athlete program. I keep plugging it, but it's legit. Again, I'm Chris Mills. Thanks for checking this out. Hit me up with questions. Keep your hips healthy, because at the end of the day, your body is the vehicle with which you surf, so take care of it. Peace.